Hey, I'm oh, Mary's in the way, sorry. I'm gonna do a channel where I walk around New York and show old places and weird things that happen. But since Infowars clothes was sold, if you're familiar, I wanted to mention something that I don't hear mentioned. A couple of years ago, Steve Piecienek, I think you pronounce it that way, he was often a guest. Apparently, he's ex-CIA psychiatrist, worked for the Bush administration, according to Jones and his wonderful discernment, claimed that he went to the dark side to the light side. Now, Pieczenik used to come on the show and shamelessly um, flatter Jones. You're an entrepreneur like me. We make mistakes. We go ahead. We go all this nonsense. I remember very clearly he was on the show a number of years ago and told Jones that um, the school at Sandy Hook had been boarded up for years, and the whole thing was a mess. So what it didn't happen. Jones went with it. I only remember him mentioning that really once or twice. He did say things like the mother or the father had ties to the CIA. There was a guy in Camis they saw, this, that, and the other thing. But the weird thing is everyone on the right is turning on Trump, MAGA, what have you. I was never MAGA, but lifelong Republican. He didn't do a thing. He also didn't go after the people who SWAT teamed themselves, SWAT teamed Roger Stone, who's a little sleazy, but he's in his 70s, doesn't need to be SWAT teamed or what have you. His half-deaf wife, SWAT teamed in the shower. Come on, ma'am. I'm sure they were polite, but so what? But that's the thing no one ever mentions. Steve Pieczenik would be a great interview on all this. Um, my problem with the parents in the Sandy Hook shooting. Well, Alex Jones never learned. When 911 happened, he was right out there saying it was an inside job, which many people believe now. I do as well. But people weren't really prepared to hear that the day after 911. He lost all these affiliates, all these advertisers, what have you. But the thing that is always in common with these shootings is there's usually a terrorism drill somewhere. The young person is notably disturbed, not just suffering with depression, but on antidepressants. I would imagine they were feeling bad, up to a handful of them, or liquor, what have you. I don't know, I don't own guns. I live in New York. It's like an impossibility. I want other people to have guns. But why would you leave, not a depressed child, a grown man who's mentally disturbed? Why would you leave him in a home with guns where he could possibly get the thing? There's a combination. Why would you leave someone home like that for a weekend? Why would you um give him a PlayStation and let him play Call of Duty with the gun so he knows how to shoot? I mean, they have the toy gun instead of just using the controller. So that was a setup or something worth questioning right there. Nobody questions it's almost generally the the antidepressants. Remember Michael Savage saying many times that when he was in high school in the 60s or 50s, kids went back and forth to the rifle range on the New York subway with a rifle and no ammunition, and there were no shootings. Xavier High School in Manhattan still has a rifle range, if I'm not mistaken. The kids don't get to hold the guns at other times or anything like that. Um, the other thing I want to be delicate here. I know the parents would be devastated and they want someone to blame. But I think they bear some blame. And I'll tell you why. When I was in grammar school, Brooklyn was dangerous. There were bomb threats. We used to like leave the school for like half a day, go to church. That was a small school. They doubled up these public schools in the suburbs to save on, they say, administration costs and all that. But when we were in grammar school, unless you're in the eighth grade, you lined up outside, you went in, it was small, as I said. The teachers knew everyone's face. They didn't even have a camera. If you wanted to talk to somebody, even if you were a parent, they had a window. If you didn't have an appointment, they would come down, unlock a door, lock it behind them, come down, unlock a door, lock it behind them, or stand in the door that they could shut. So three doors to get through. And even if it was someone parent, like if it was a divorced couple, and say the mother had the custody, dad couldn't say, "I got to take Junior out to get ice cream." You couldn't do that. So that's one big problem there. As for the amount of money, they destroyed the place. I mean, I know people said over the years when, for example, the New York Times says something untrue, you get like a page six retraction or something. So that much said, Jones kind of did this to himself because a number of years ago, he used to say, well, he said two things. One was that I don't really believe this, but he was offered to be as big as Rush Limbaugh at one time. But like Rush Limbaugh, he was given a talking to. It says you can only mention certain things. Michael Savage said one time the guy called in, talked about Illuminati, what have you. And he said, we don't talk about certain things on this show. So Jones, like 8 years ago, before Sandy Hook, used to claim, or after, I'm sorry, shortly after, that he had inside info. He would knock Mossad, knock Israel. That stopped very, very abruptly. And then a lot of the stuff he started saying was like sounded like nonsense, BS. For example, when Trump was running the first time, I had an elderly mother was ill. Of course, you grasp at straws. He was claiming there would be med beds curing disease. I was so hopeful. He claimed there would be cures for cancer. Once Trump was elected, he didn't mention any of it. He told Trump he should get on the COVID bandwagon, do something because he wasn't acting all that much. And it turns out, let's just say there were many, many problems with the whole COVID shutdown. Many, which Jones stopped addressing. So it's kind of like Michael Savage in a way. You burn too many bridges, you have no one to defend you, and you're left with that. And the other thing is too, I don't want to repeat what I heard. I heard a couple rumors that weren't great about Jones. Not that he deserves this, but that that there's a guy on YouTube talks about he's a immigrant from Russia. He talks about Russian/Soviet propaganda. And what they do is the truth is out there somewhere, but there's so much garbage in between that you no longer trust the truth. So Jones says some things that are true, that some things that are garbage. But here's the thing with Jones, where he loses some sympathy for me. He likes to brag that his family is Texas royalty, that they were involved in the founding of Texas as a state and negotiations with Andrew Jackson to take the place like in the 1840s, 1820s before it actually happened. That I could be wrong about that. I think he said they had been a Mason family, which could mean that you start out in like access cable and you think you rise, but somebody's letting you rise, but they didn't let you rise to talk about the boss in a sense. So, I mean, it's upsetting that a court can do this to you with, at least according to him, he has no redress. But on the other hand, I lost patience with him years ago, just in terms of getting learning anything, getting any fact. Almost everyone you talk to or listen to on YouTube turned out to disappoint. I'd like to do a video soon about people I used to love on the internet who now I can't stand. So, for example, uh, although I like Candace Owens very much, White Jones turned on her. I don't know why. She'd been on a show, at least according to him, where she had her big break. But my problem with Candace Owens broadly is that I don't think people rise that fast. And She met her husband, married him in 17 days. When she's famous, that changes everything. He's traveling to South Africa, white British guy, which would make me think if he's not in contact with MI6, they're guarding him. He's doing business. Why would you do business in South Africa now or invest any money in there if you're a white European? I mean, why would you, given the situation? So I would venture to guess that Candace's husband may be her handler. The way people, many rumors that Beyonce, Jay-Z was Beyonce's handler, that I forget his name. Was it I Kissed a Girl singer when she was married to Russell. Um, I keep calling him Russell Crowe because he has a crow symbol on his show. Was it Russell? Not Russell Simmons. You know who I mean. But people mentioned that he might be her handler. But my opinion of all these people on the right, first of all, you have to remember when they say alternate press, you're broadcasting on YouTube. That's owned by Google, which has ties with the government. So it's alternate until they don't like you. So my opinion, not so much of Jones because he's been around a long time, but say Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, um, David Wilcock, but less so David Wilcock, um, even Tim Dillon, who was amusing. They let like five people rise who more or less supported MAGA, but then they split apart, and now you have the right fighting with each other, and you have um, Trump turning on us. And here's what I wanted to say. I mean, this is what made me want to do this video because I didn't want to touch politics or current events or anything like that. But I'm a practicing Catholic. I became more traditional Catholic as I got older. And the Marian apparitions by evangelicals, I know they hate this stuff. It's not the Bible. A few of the Marian apparitions, including Garabandal, Spain, Mary said to the children that it would seem that communism had overrun the world. Add to that, there are a number of videos on YouTube, people who have been in skull and bones in this said that, well, I'm going to talk about her father, that their inclination was fascism. But given that it had become so distasteful because of World War II, they decided on communism for us. So when people say Mamdani's ruining New York, well, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, uh, Portland, what's the other one? Um, they're being set up to be communist, either for a civil war or the war. I mean, we're already in the war. So all of these things are kind of tied together. But my gut would tell me that Europe, Russia, North Africa, you're going to see them go Bolshevik. They'll call it something else. But what Mandami's doing is purposeful, and it's also part of the trend. If you know your history, it's a long story. I'll get into it another time. But New York's decline really started with Eleanor Roosevelt. A number of different things happened, but she put in place a number of policies that drove the price of real estate, quality of life down. Lindsay spent this into oblivion. They were giving away buildings. Um, then they gentrified, built it up. But if you listen to Catherine Austin Fitch, she would say that HUD owns like $1 trillion worth of property that they want to sell. I don't want to bring up race, her words, that they want to move Hispanics into this property, then gentrify it. But I would say that the next 20 years or so, they'll drive New York down, burn it out like they did in the Bronx in the 70s, buy up that land cheap, and re-gentrify it. Because you're sort of at the point where, a house in not an appealing neighborhood like Gravesend, say, It's like $2 million, which is absurd. Um, I grew up in Park Slope. The prices were the houses were overpriced 2 years ago at like 2 million. First the gays and lesbians came, then the yuppies, then minor Hollywood like Patrick Stewart. I mean, he's a big star, but you know what I mean. Not Tom Cruise. Then like the old money, like the Eric Gimbals moved in around here. Now the Chinese are coming. Chinese don't have pensions. They're afraid of their banks. I talk to a lot of Chinese people online. They love real estate, love foreign real estate. So 3 generations will pay 4 million, and now it's going up to 4.5 million for a round sounding cash, which is absurd. It's not absurd in the sense that if you keep bringing in people from Beijing, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So some neighborhoods will collapse, but it's not going to be a good ride. I mean, it's going to be 1975 all over again, which shows you another point. I didn't mean to ramble. I should keep on target. But when I was a child, they said New York was ungovernable. They said that black people had had hard lives, so you have to give them a second chance. So you would let people, it was true of white people too, but someone would commit a crime and you let them out again. And they said this was like making amends. Oh, well, and good, but you have to live here. Giuliani stopped the crime in like a year and a half, so you know it can be done. It's going up again. So what is it? It's not being kind. They want chaos. So that's the thing. But that my main point was really Alex Jones and Infowars. It's just an absurdity all around. I mean, even Infowars. Not that his information wasn't good, but I mean, you have a fat old guy who's like dying with a look at him. Not not drugs, right? But selling you vitamins that are overpriced. I'm sure they're quality. I mean, I had elderly mother. She had no energy. I was giving her nitrous oxide, all this crap. Didn't work. Didn't do a damn thing. I don't think it does. Maybe over 30 years or something. Maybe, or let me put it this way. I had two uncles. One was an in-law, best friends their whole lives. One stopped drinking and smoking at 28. Vitamin, before anybody. I mean, he was taking vitamins in his 60s. Well, the one who drank and smoked died a year before him of cancer. He died a year later of cancer. So I don't know if the vitamins are doing you all that good. But people do say, whom I trust, that it's minerals we lack and your body can make every vitamin, but vitamin C. But I do see um, a future of war, collapsed economy, communism, Russia overrunning Europe, at least for a time. Um, and I'm not bashing Russia. The war in Ukraine started for many complicated reasons. But look at Putin's point of view. You have an antagonized Europe that's only going to get stronger. You're probably going to have America involved fighting Iran, maybe Islam. All you have to do to make Europe burn is to stage a false flag where a bunch of Muslims get shot by guys in black uniforms um, outside of a mosque. And how would you get tanks to the front lines when the highways are burning? So that seems to be our immediate future. So I guess Infowars doesn't seem like so important in that um, milieu, but it does make you wonder, even if you hate Jones, how could you give someone 1.2 billion because they offended the sensibilities of poor parents who lost their children? I mean, it's not very nice to have their sensibilities offended, but compared to what that happens every day in the world. So we'll see. Oh, one more thing. I don't want to bring up Israel because everybody gets angry when you do. But what I really wonder about, keeps me up at night. Professor Jang said something like this along these lines. They want the world to hate them, it would seem. Why? The only thing I can think of is they think Moshiach is coming, God will save them, they're going to win, or they're going to get their greater Israel. In other words, there are many reasons that Germany lost World War II. One reason is that almost every country in the world would not side with them because of what they were doing. And so, what does Israel gain? Well, let me put it this way: if they wanted to land in Gaza, okay, we were warlike people. Why would Kushner come and say they want to develop it, put like casinos and hotels? Do you know how that sounds to people? Even if you wanted to do it, you would not say it. So it seems to me you don't want to do it, you want to say it, if that makes sense. Lindsey Graham saying he wants to use nukes on Iran. I don't care if Iran was run by Satan himself. There are consequences to these things. Um, but we'll see. So that's